Hey there, everybody, and welcome back. Congratulations to those of you who made it through the series successfully and are ready to publish your application. For those of you who are new to the series or just tuning in to learn how to publish an application to the Google Play Store, this video will still be value added to you as well, so you don't need to use AppGyver to follow this video. However, most of this is going to be relevant to people using AppGyver. Now, next up, for those of you who are new to the series and don't really know where we are right now, we've created a social/sharing application with login and sign up page completely free. So check out the videos in this playlist. Start at the beginning. That covers pricing, limitations to the application, and really everything that you need to know. And then meet us back here and we'll do this together. Now, this video is only publishing to Google Play. AppGyver has a ton of documentation if you are looking to publish to the Apple App Store or to publish a web app. Right now, we're just doing Google Play and just kind of keeping this the stopping point. So again, drop any questions below and let's go ahead and get started. Now, first, you're going to need to log in to your AppGyver app or to the page. And then we are going to need to go ahead and get your account set up on Google Play. So if you go to play.google.com/console, it'll pull up this About page. You can click Go to Play Console, and then you'll have to go ahead and sign up. It is a one-time fee. I believe it's $25, but luckily that's a one-time fee, and you can publish multiple apps to the same developer account. So go ahead and get that pulled up. I have my console pulled up here. And then I have this page as well that we're going to go through together. Essentially, this is just how to generate a Keystore file. This helps to add an additional layer of security. People can't replicate your app, log into your account without this Keystore file, so it just adds that added layer of security. So we're going to be using this free program called Keystore Explorer, and you can see the name right here, Keystore Explorer 5.4.4. And this page here walks us through exactly how to create this Keystore file. Very, very simple process. This is something that you should not share anything with other people. So the process of creating your Keystore file and the file itself, you will need every time you upload your application. So I would highly recommend saving this somewhere in a very secure location that you will not lose it, and make sure you don't share any of the information related to this file with anyone. And then last thing to note is if you have the sign-in page set up on your application, which we did earlier in the series, I removed mine. If you have yours set up, you will need to create a test account for Google. When they're doing the review, they need access to every area of your application. So you may want to make a note of that as well. Now, let's go ahead and jump straight in. So once you have your application pulled up in AppGyver, we're going to click on Launch, Distribute, and Open Build Services. Now we have build services opened. Let's go ahead and create our Keystore file. So we're going to start by clicking create a new Keystore. And then you're going to click on JKS. Okay. And you will click on this generate key pair, but just want to show you how we're following this here. So you'll see generate key pair, RSA, and we're going to choose 4096 as the size. So let's jump back over here. We could actually keep this pulled up. So generate new key pair, and we're going to change the size to, let's just make sure you have the right number, 4096. And you'll see that right here we're keeping it as RSA. So we're going to go ahead and click on OK. And then once it's done with the generating key pair screen, you'll see what we're going to do next is we are going to edit the names. So we'll pull this up. You'll see we have this section here. Now we will keep everything as is, but we do need to change the validity period. So you'll see a couple of things. Let's see if they have that validity period in here. So typically they want you to have a period of between 25 and 50 years. So for the sake of this video, I would recommend doing your own research to check on what you need your period to be. I'm just going to put 50. Now, don't forget to hit apply. If you don't hit apply and this section down here doesn't change, then you're going to run the risk of that validity period essentially just being too soon, and then you're going to need to generate a brand new key pair or Keystore file. So next up, we're going to click this little book down here, and you'll see here's a breakdown of everything. So common name is the authority-server example, organization name, etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to pull this over here, and we will scroll down just to make sure that we're getting all that information pulled up. So I'm just going to put some sample information here because I plan on removing this once it's uploaded, just to show you essentially that we've actually done this together. So organization name, and then locality name. So we will just put, we'll put Denver, state is Colorado, and then country is going to be US, and we'll click OK. And we will click OK here. And then you'll see we need to enter an alias. So this is something that you're absolutely going to need. So when we enter alias, we can just keep it at surface level. Make sure you write this down. You will need this info. We'll click OK. It's going to ask for a new password. We'll enter a password. Make this very difficult to guess and make sure you record it. You'll see it was generated successfully. Now we're going to click on save. You'll enter your password, click OK. And I can't stress enough how much you're going to need these files. So just make sure that you are keeping all this information in a safe and secure location. So we'll just save it to the download. We'll save it as Keystore. And now that we have saved it, we are good to go. So we're going to go over here to Open Build Services, which we already have pulled up. So we're going to select the configure for Android and mobile. Upload Keystore file, go to Downloads, Keystore. It's going to ask for your password. We'll type in the sample password I provided. Keystore alias password. Now we will go ahead and click Save Next. You'll see that this information is automatically set up. If you want, you can choose lock screen orientation. You don't really need to. Image assets. Now, this is probably the most time-consuming part of this. So these are going to be image files that are essentially set up in different resolutions. So what I would recommend doing is try to figure out what's a good icon for you. Splash screens, in my opinion, probably the most important thing. This is the screen that appears when your app is loading. So when you click it before the app is initialized, that image that appears, and then notification icons if you decided to set up notification settings. Now what I did for these is I had basically like a personal setup for the coffee app that I made. So let's see, you can go through again. I don't really need to share that library. The idea is you're going to need an image that's large enough, and you're going to save it in 192 by 192 pixels. Then you're going to save that same image, assuming you want it to be the same image, as 144 by 144. So I literally just took a picture. I saved it in the resolution, so you can actually open up something like Paint. And when you have an image here, you can click Resize, and you can choose the pixels option. You can deselect maintain aspect ratio, and you can choose the resolution here. So to avoid any issues with potential like loss of quality, start with the biggest image and resize and reduce, and then repeat the process until you have all of these. But again, these are going to be basically like built into the application. So it's just going to pull that up from the memory. So I'm going to leave everything as default. I would not recommend that you do that just because you want this to be your custom info. But we're going to click Save and Next for this. You can choose permissions that you're going to need. We don't really have much that we actually need for this. So if you need any permissions, depending on how you've actually built the application, you'll select it to bring it over and select it to push it back. And we'll click Save and Next. So now that configure is done, we're going to click on Build. These are the runtime versions. I'm going to select 2.6.8 for now, but over time you'll need to upgrade to newer versions. The version code will start with 1, and version name is basically 1.0.0. Every time you do a new build, you'll need to increase both of these by either 1 up here or 0.0.01 here. So basically, the next one is going to be 1.0.1, the next one will be 1.0.2. You can change this however you want. It'll show you the naming convention down here. So we're just going to start with 1.0.0. We're going to go ahead and click Build. And you'll see here the status is created. And then when you refresh, typically it'll show you status is queued. Now, it will typically create the file, which is an APK file, usually within 5 minutes to an hour, depending on quite a few different factors. So what we're going to do is we're going to pause the video here, wait on this to go ahead and finish, and then we will come back, download it, and kind of finish up from there. All right, everybody, now that this has been delivered, I think it took under an hour or so, I'm not quite sure, but essentially we will go ahead and walk through the process. Now, because we are uploading to Google Play for the first time, we actually need 2 files. We'll see why in a minute, but what we're going to go ahead and do is if you don't have any changes to the splash screen, so basically this configure option, everything that you saw there, if you don't need to make any changes to permissions, splash screen, icons, etc., any of those, you can leave the configure tab as is. We're going to create a second build, and we're going to make the version code 2. And then the version name will be 1.0.1. We'll select the same client runtime version, and we're going to go ahead and click build. The reason we're doing this is Google typically wants you to have a beta test first or some kind of testing to make sure everything works. So you're going to upload the first application. However, you're then going to need to add an updated version once you decide to publish live, or at least that's the way we're going to be doing it. So we want to have this second option. And the reason we can't rebuild it is you can't upload the same APK file with the same runtime version the second time around. Now what we're going to do, at this point, ideally, you have signed up for Google Play per the instructions from earlier, so you will have a dashboard similar to this. You probably won't have many or any items in your inbox, and there won't be any applications here. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click on Create App, and we'll put app name for the viewers, just something you'll name yours whatever you want it to be. It'll say app or game. You'll select the option. I will make this a free application. You'll confirm that it meets the developer policies. When you do this, you need to read all of these policies and make sure everything follows those rules, regulations, etc. And same thing. So don't just select these. Make sure you're actually complying with them. Next, we will go ahead and click on Create Application or Create App. It may take a minute. You'll load the developer console and the dashboard for this app. Sometimes they'll have a note of we're experiencing longer than usual review times. That's entirely, honestly, it could be anywhere from a day to 4 or 5 or more. So you'll see that we have tasks. So start testing now. Release your app for early internal testing so you can view tasks. You'll be able to select testers if you're interested. So this is where you're essentially going to create an email list. If you want to do this the right way, which is set a couple of people that you want to be able to download the initial version, and then you would basically email them saying, hey, here's a feedback URL, and you would be able to save changes and essentially allow that group of people to actually be able to test and run that application. And then at any point, if you have any questions, you can go up here to your inbox to see if you maybe have anything that you need to check into. But we have that internal testing again. Now, if you click on this open testing, typically it'll allow you to see all of your options and things you need to set up. So first we'll select our countries. We'll go down, and here you can add countries/regions. And we are going to find US. The main reason I'm only focusing on the US for this one is when you're releasing applications, you need to make sure that they comply with all local guidelines. And basically, we're just trying to focus on the laws, rules, regulations, etc. that we have somewhat of an understanding of. You start publishing to different countries, you need to make sure you're complying with all their policies, rules, and all the legal stuff, etc. So once we've selected regions, you'll see that there's an option to create a new release. And here is the app signing. So basically all we're doing here is uploading our actual file. So we will click on this and we'll go to downloads. We have the Keystore file here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our build services, click on download for this delivered option. And you'll see we have a fairly small file, so about 46, 47 megabytes. We'll go here. And then for the testing part, we will drag and drop this file in. And sometimes we may need to click continue here first. Now we can drag and drop, and we'll just drag the bundle here. And then release details, we can just put internal testing. Release notes, we'll put something like first release internal. And then we're essentially just going to wait for this to upload. This doesn't usually take too long. Again, depends on the size of your file. So we are going to essentially wait for this. And again, while you're waiting, it probably wouldn't hurt while you have Firebase set up to go into your authentication tab and set up a test account for the testers with Google Play, just so they can log in and access all areas to the app. That is essentially one way to make sure that your app is not going to be approved, is if you don't give them access to everything. So we will essentially just wait for this upload to finish. So I'll pause the video here and we will come back once it's done. All right, everybody. So this just finished up. So essentially we are going to go into the next steps. So we click save here. And then this is where it's going to tell you if there are any issues or anything else that you need to kind of make note of. So once we've saved, we can just click review release. And this is where it's going to say, you have any errors, so complete the steps listed on the dashboard. APK with version code 1 that requests permission. Apps using this permission and APK are required to have a privacy policy set, so we need a privacy policy. And then you'll see we need to add a full description to your store listing. So basically the biggest error messages are saying, hey, you haven't actually set up your like the actual steps for the listing, etc. So we'll click go to dashboard. And this is where we're going to finish everything. So create new release. Obviously, we've been working on that. Setting up your app. So here's where we need to fill out all of this information. So set privacy policy. Now, I'm going to interject on this privacy policy piece because the legal and disclaimers are huge here, and I can't offer any specific advice since I'm not a lawyer or attorney and I don't work in the legal field. So there are a ton of different resources online like termlead.io and several others where you can go answer a couple of questions about your application. Pay very close attention to those, as again, this is the legal element, so make sure you're answering all of those questions and paying very close attention. Now, once you have all those questions answered, they will typically provide you with a privacy policy, and you can go to add to website and they'll give you different options here. You can go to GoDaddy.com, Wix.com, and several other websites, and you'll essentially be able to create a basic website if you want to advertise your app, or if you just want to paste your privacy policy. You do need a valid URL with a privacy policy in order to allow yourself to complete this step in the process. So simply paste in a URL that has your specific privacy policy into this text box we were just at, and then we will click save and next and continue on. And then you're going to set up app access. Now, if you have some functionality as restricted, this is where you're going to add instructions. So this is very important. If you kept your login page, this is where you're going to add instructions. And this is basically telling the people for Google Play, here's the username or password, or here's the username, here's the password, and here's how you log in. And then just letting them know the name of the instructions. This is so they can log into the app and access all the features that a typical user can access. But for my app, I removed that just so we could get this hopefully approved a little quicker. So we will say it's available without special access. Do not check this if you have any kind of restrictions in the application or login page setup, etc. Then we will click back to the dashboard, go to ads. My app doesn't contain ads, so if yours does, obviously you would select the yes option. So once we've done this, we'll go back to dashboard. We will scroll down. Now we do the content rating. Now, this is not something that you can follow along with me on, unfortunately, and this is primarily because the way that this is set up, you will need to follow the content for your app, not mine. So we would type in some kind of an email address for basically them to tell you what your content rating is. You will pick the option that corresponds to your application. And then you're going to answer these questions. So is this for dating? No. Does it have public sharing of nudity? No. We'll say no to that. no location features, and then no for purchasing goods. Again, this is, you're answering this from the realm of your application, not mine. So you'll click Save and Next, and then you will see your ratings here. So you can essentially walk through that and click Submit. And you'll see that it is completed. So this is set up. If you need to make any changes, you can just start a new questionnaire. And then what we will do is we're essentially going back to the dashboard. And then we will go ahead and scroll down. Target audience is next. My recommendation is to always shoot for basically like 16 and up if you can. So you'll see you can't select below 13 because of the rating. So I usually would just go 16 to 17, 18 and up. But again, choose based on everything for you specifically. So I can't do the design for families. And so we'll just click Next, Next, and Save. And again, follow this for your specific application. Then we'll go back to the dashboard as we are almost done. So News app. Is this a news app? Mine is not. So I will click No and Save. Go back to the dashboard. And now we have the category and to provide details. So we have an app, what category. And you can kind of scroll through and see what makes the most sense for you. And then sometimes it will require an email address. Phone number is not required. And then you can choose to let them advertise outside of Google Play. So we'll click Save here. And we can just kind of make sure that everything's set up. And then we will go back to the dashboard. And then you'll set up your store listing. Now, this is one of the trickier parts because you're going to need to set up. This is a test app, full description. These are really important. Imagine if you were trying to download an application. The description, short and full, are what's basically going to capture people and make them want to download this application. Next up, what you would need to do is you would need to set up an app icon. So it's typically a 512 by 512. So what we can do for this is we can check in and decide, you know what, we want to set up. I already have a couple of these, so you'll see we have a couple of options. So we'll just choose one of my icons. So I labeled it 512 by 512. And then you would need a feature graphic. So we're going to click Upload here, and then it'll typically tell you what the feature graphic size needs to be. So 1024 by 500. Not quite sure if this one would be sufficient. So let's see, you do need to follow these guidelines here. And then the video, if you have one, you can typically find someone on Fiverr or really any other place to create a quick sample video for you. Now they need to know what it looks like on a phone. So for this, you would likely need to download the AppGyver preview application. And essentially what you're going to do is you're going to take some screenshots of your application live. So basically just open up the AppGyver app on your phone, sign in, take a couple screenshots, and this is where you're going to be uploading them. So here's an example of what the screenshots would look like. Here's a screenshot of my application. So that actual Coffee Canine app. So you need two. So we'll upload, we'll select another one. And then typically they'll require tablet screenshots. This is where you would want screenshots on a tablet. I don't have anything readily available, but I took some super high resolution screenshots on mine, so no issues there. I'm just going to upload the same ones. I do not recommend this. The main reason I'm doing this is I'm not going to be putting this app 100% live. We're just going to do the testing portion and show you how to publish it live so that I'm not breaking any rules or anything. And then we're just going to click on Save. So at this point, we should have done almost everything excluding the privacy policy, if I'm not mistaken. So what we are going to do from here is we are going to go back to the internal testing tab. And we will double check. So we need to see if there's anything else that we need to add on this end. And here's the unfortunate side to how things are set up with Google Play. So you'll see that we had a previous release. Even if you go to discard the release and click yes, If we were to try to re-release the exact same APK file, typically it's going to give you an error and say, hey, this isn't going to work because you've already tried to upload something like this. So I do want you to see what that error looks like. So we're going to copy the APK file here, type up the release 1, and this is essentially what you're going to walk through, and you can do this repeatedly until you actually figure out like what exactly it is you need to set up, or if you need to make any changes. While this is working here, we'll check back with AppGyver and see if they've delivered the other build for us. So that one is delivered. Just to be safe, we'll create one more, just in case. You never know if we're going to have any issues or errors with our uploads. So we have this build successfully completed. Let's jump back over here, and I will pause the video and resume it once this has either uploaded or given us an error. All right, everybody. So that gave us an error message and basically said you're already using version 1. As expected, that kind of didn't exactly work. So we're going to remove the APK using this option here, and we are essentially just going to go back to downloads. So we're going to remove the old one, and we're going to go back to AppGyver and download the second most recent option. And then we're going to go to prepare release. And here we're going to drop in the newest APK file once the download is completely finished. And we're going to wait on this app bundle. Now, while this is working in the background, I want to walk you through a couple of potentially useful resources for you. So we have an option here for app.termly.io, which is a website that'll actually walk you through creating a privacy policy for your application. So when you go to this Termly website, it'll ask you a ton of questions. This is the legal piece, so I highly recommend paying as much attention as possible. Maybe even if you're interested in making this a big app, connecting with someone from some legal team somewhere to make sure that you're really covering yourself in every way that you can. But it'll essentially give you this privacy policy. You can go make a basic website anywhere, whether it be something like Wix.com, GoDaddy, etc. And then there's the option to add this to your website. So you can add it in HTML, you can add a URL. You'll have all these different choices. Some of them may be pro, but if you want to just keep it as it is, so you'll see that there is the option here to add in the HTML for this website. So you would just copy to clipboard, and then you would copy this URL over to your website or this HTML code snippet, and then you'll be all good to go. Now what we're going to do, since this uploaded, we're going to click save here, see if we have any final errors, which I believe we should have. Doesn't look like we have any, so you will see potentially some warnings. These aren't really anything we can do. So you'll see API is targeting API level 29. If I'm not mistaken, when you're building, if you use the build services for one of these two client runtimes, this should be updated to be targeting the new API level, so you're not going to have to worry about any issues with complying to Google Play's policies. Then you'll see unused code and all this. This is basically related to how AppGyver's building things, at least from my understanding. So that is what it is. Essentially, you can't really make much of a change there unless you want to drop this APK file into something like Android Studio and make some changes there. But what we're going to do is we're going to start rollout to open testing, click rollout, and then you'll see everything has essentially been published to Google Play. So this open testing is a little bit different. The idea here is this is saying, hey, this is a testing period. People can go download this without it necessarily being 100% public. And once you've done the testing, you've kind of logged into the app from Google Play and decided, you know what, this is what I want, you can actually go forward with the actual production. And you can go through here, see all of the different release options, so production, etc. So you can check your releases, countries and regions. You'll see that we have the open testing tab. Typically, it'll start out in review, so Google needs to make sure that this is something that they can put in their store. And then once this is done, you'll have the option to go through closed testing if you want to go through all these tracks. And then once you're all done with this, you would essentially just go through the process of publishing the app This may take a day or two, so I'll pause the video here. You can see essentially we've got this process started. So I would recommend in your free time, because we don't want to upload anything to Google Play that is going to be like without providing a policy URL. So my recommendation, go find a website where you can publish your privacy policy. That's really big for Google right now. So find that, get that set up, wait for your application to get approved, and we'll be back. I'll pause the video here. We'll come back once it's been approved, and we will go through kind of finalizing the process. All right, everybody, so let's go ahead and get this finalized. I have the Google Play console application downloaded on my phone. You can download that onto your Android or iOS device or manage from this page here. But I basically logged in, saw that my updates were live and good to go. So we will go ahead and essentially push to production. Bearing in mind when you're doing open, closed, and internal testing, the rules of what can happen, who can view it are a little different there. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click on production. And we're going to make sure our countries are selected first. So again, I'm just selecting United States, primarily because I'm trying to choose based on rules, laws, regulations, etc. that I'm actually familiar with. But you're more than welcome to select whatever options here. Again, just make sure that you're following all local, federal laws, guidelines, rules, etc. relevant to the areas you're selecting. So we have countries added. So there's no release, and you'll see it when you actually create a release. So we're going to go to AppGyver and download the most recent version. So I made a couple versions originally just to make sure that you can upload the newest APK file. Again, when you're doing this, you basically just go to build, and then you're increasing this version code and version name. If you use the same version code, you'll get an error message, even if you don't necessarily need a change. So we're going to go to create new release. And then once this page loads, you'll see it looks very similar to what we've already done. So we'll drag our APK file in here. And then go down here, and you can name the release. This is typically going to be viewable on Google Play. So we can put this as like first official release. And then your release notes here. This will typically be where you'll paste something along the lines of bug fixes, security enhancements, just things that let their user know what exactly is going on. But we'll honestly just put this here because I don't have much to say about this release specifically. And then we're essentially going to wait on the APK file to finish, and then we will get started. So we'll pause the video real quick and come back when this is actually finished up. All right, so this went ahead and finished uploading. So we will go ahead and click on save. And we will now basically just make sure everything looks good and click review release. And again, you'll see those warnings, not much we can do about them. Again, you can typically use other editors if you need to make any changes, just to make sure that this is compliant. I'm not really doing too much here as I plan on removing this once it's actually gone public. But we'll go ahead and click Start Rollout to Production. And then you'll see available for all users in your given countries. You'll click Rollout if everything's correct. And then you'll see that this official version is in review. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and basically I'm going to pause this video, and then I'm going to jump into actually downloading this application from my phone from Google Play once this release is actually live. So we will go ahead and again, I'll be on my phone in a couple of seconds. We'll download this, go over it together, and then that should be pretty much everything.
All right, everybody, congratulations again to everyone that made it this far. We're going to go ahead and download our application from Google Play, where it is live. Now, before we do this, as you're searching for your application, if you aren't on the first page or first couple of pages in the search results, don't get discouraged by that. Some apps can pay to advertise, and often, because your app is going to be newer, it may not necessarily be as relevant. Even if you're typing in the exact name, there are a ton of factors that help to control whether or not you're going to be on certain pages of the search results. So if you want, you can look into SEO, which is search engine optimization, to try to increase your relevance. But ideally over time, when you get more downloads and again, other factors being considered, your app should boost up in the rankings. But you can always look into how Google does that separately if you want to make yours more relevant. So for this, I'm going to look up another application that I've uploaded. So this is a resume builder I built using AppGyver. I'm going to click on the publisher name, and you'll see right here is this top one for the viewers. Now, I am going to remove this from Google Play once I'm done with this video, just because I don't think that this is really a functional app that people would want to use. This is just to show you, again, it is live in Google Play. And the only other thing I did before filming this video essentially was just to make sure that I updated the screenshots. Even though this is going to be an app that's going to be deleted, I wanted these screenshots to be accurate depictions of the application. So you'll see these are real-time screenshots of the app when I was using it before the video. So we're going to go ahead and click on install. And then while it's installing, what we're going to do is we're going to click about this app. So you'll see up at the top what's new, first official release. You'll see about this app, and essentially a note saying this is a test app, this is the description. You'll see the version number, updated, number of downloads, etc. Most of this can be viewable in the Google Play console, which is a mobile app you can download as well. But again, just to let you know where all of that information is actually displayed here. Now, when the app is installing, the download and install time for me usually takes between 1 to 2 minutes or less, depending on your app size. So if you uploaded a bunch of images into your application, it could take longer. That's why, again, I recommend storing everything in a database somewhere and then just posting the URL. That way, since users are likely going to have internet access anyway, then they would be able to view all of that, and it doesn't have to take up too much file size on your app. So you'll see we've installed and downloaded. We'll click open. Now that AppGyver logo is a splash screen that you can update and change. That was in the build section a couple videos back, so feel free to look into that there if you're interested. And then let's jump between the pages and see how responsive this is. So you'll see it moves back and forth pretty quickly. So pretty responsive overall. This is the page, essentially the home page. There's not really much here. So we'll click on Exciting Forum first. So if we want to post to the forum, you'll see there's a couple posts that are already there. So let's go ahead and make a final post here. So final post, and then we'll just make it light. And again, light would typically be if this were a coffee app. And then image URL, I actually copied an image URL from Unsplash. And then I just want to scroll just to show you there's nothing else on this page. So these are some other test forums that I did, but final post is not on this page. So we'll click the button and you see it says submitted. And up here at the top, it says final post. And then you'll see it has light posted on and that date, and then the image right here. Again, I pulled this from unsplash.com. You should just be able to type in coffee there and you should be able to find this image. So everything went through on this page here. Now let's go over to normal forum, and then we'll put final post again. And then description, we did it. And then who's posting, we'll just put Tyler Talks. And I'll scroll through here just to show you I have some other tests, but this specific title or name is not in the forums down here. And we'll click post on the wall. And then essentially you just kind of scroll through. So you'll see final post again right here. If we click read more, you'll see it says final post again, Tyler Talks, we did it. So everything came through pretty close to real time. You'll see all the posts are loading. Now, again, there's probably going to be an easier way for you to display this just because it is a little confusing the way the lines are set up. And even in this exciting forum over here, this all kind of blends together. So when you're doing those repeating instances of containers and things of that nature, you could set it up to look a little bit more attractive. But this is just to show you that all of this information is working. It's connecting with our Firebase database. If you had your login page enabled, again, I disabled mine because I wanted the application to get approved a little bit quicker. But you'd essentially just log in just like you are here. But as you can see, I disabled login, so this is just publicly available. And then the last thing to note, again, the login page doesn't require authentication the way that we did it. So any email address would be able to sign up, but it would require the same password as you used when you signed up with that email. And there is also no security on the database here. So if people could find the URL for this information, they can do API requests or they could just alter the information. So if you need an app that requires secure transfers, you're going to need to look into into securing endpoints and a ton more information, which basically goes beyond the scope of this video. So if you are really open to just having anyone signing up with any email and your information being able to be essentially read or altered, then this is a great way for you just to create kind of like an open source application for anyone to use. So again, the security piece, you're going to need to do some of your own independent research to figure that out. That's beyond the scope of this. And there's a ton of liability stuff with that, which I don't want to cover. So here's the application in real time. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll go ahead and remove this from Google Play, but drop your questions, comments, concerns below. I'll be happy to help out in any way I can. And again, don't forget to subscribe and check out the channel for new content.